We're back.
Hey.
Welcome. Woo. For all
I gotta
those,
figure out. I need to focus on the camera up here.
we're in. Can you see me? Focus.
I can see you. I can see you. We're
All right,
video.
sweet.
Yay.
Yeah, so we're going to do a video episode. I think we mentioned last episode that we were going to hop between audio and video. It's really hard to just keep looking right here. So if I look off, I feel like I need to look at you, like on the screen. But anyway, so wherever you are listening to this right now, if you're at work, on the road, whatever, I'm sure you'd rather be outside. It's overcast here at my place today and pretty dang cold outside. I don't know what it's like for you there, but
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's really
But thanks for joining us again. And let's dive into this.
Should we let them know that we both do this from our home offices? So if you hear a dog bark, or if you hear a doorbell or a psychotic animal,
you are likely to hear one of my dogs because I have 3. Don't you have 3 too?
I have 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on in here, and you're in your home office. I'm actually in my dining area because my home office is also a guest bedroom. So
Yeah.
had to pick a decent spot. As always, it's our pleasure to meet with you guys again. I'm Sarah.
I'm Lindsay. And we're wearing our Titty Deep shirts today.
Represent.
We felt like this would be a great episode since, of course, it's our first video episode. But before we're off of this episode today, we're going to tell all of y'all how we came up with this fantastic name.
Yes,
so
we will.
Good episode to wear the shirts.
Yeah.
So you want to just dive in?
Yeah, let's just go in. So we actually had a little explanation for this episode too, right? So this is our second episode, and we decided to call it Chumming Up the Waters, and for a specific reason. So Lindsay, why don't you tell us?
We have to give credit to Brian on that because we were driving down, I think we were headed to Shields last weekend, and he was like, you have to give the listeners what they want. They're hungry.
Give the people what they want.
I'm out there, and I was like, okay, we're going to go with that. Thanks, producer.
Yep. Manager in charge.
Yeah. So we are not obviously here with Captain Brett Sweeney. But since we are throwing this episode into the mix now, it was going to be a monthly episode. And I obviously like to talk with my hands. So if you see that's excessive, I'll work on this. But I want to just explain for a second that we do plan on having him next month as planned. But we are going with the bi-weekly schedule now. So you will hear from us or see us every 2 weeks now. And did we decide Mondays or Monday's the day? We're going to let that.
Yep, Mondays. Every other Monday is going to be the thing. Is what we think we can. Think we can swing. We looked at our calendars for months ahead, right? And so, I think every other Monday is going to be the thing. And we had a lot of people interested in what we're doing, and we're so excited to hear that and see the positive feedback that we were getting. And so we wanted to hop in and give you guys something to listen to before we do release that next episode with Brett that we promised.
So we kind of talked to you about what are we going to talk about? So you have to know that Sarah and I go back and forth probably daily. I'll wake up to Sarah's brain in my Instagram, and at any given time, we laugh at each other because we're messaging each other on Instagram. We're messaging each other on text. And sometimes it carries over into stories and Facebook Messenger. So we're constantly talking about stuff, but we also talk about stuff that we feel like might be of value for our listeners. And so one of the things that we tossed around was, let's talk about what we're doing this year in the form of, what activities we have planned, what tournaments we're rolling out into, what we look forward to. And then again, last weekend when we were kind of talking about the Chum stuff, Brian just kind of mentioned, he was like, why don't y'all recap what you did in 2022? Ding, ding, ding. So that makes sense. So we are going to recap our 2022, some of our highlights, our top highlights. Some of them were the same because we spent time together, obviously. And then some of them were not. So we're going to talk about our highlights of 2022, and then we're going to talk about what we're looking forward to in 2023. And both of these carry over into fishing and hunting. So I think I actually got to spend a little bit more time in the woods this year than Sarah did. Sad face, because that was not by her choice. But we definitely spent some time in the water together. So I'm going to let Sarah roll right into her 2022 recap.
Oh, well, as you mentioned, I didn't get to spend hardly any time in the woods in 2022, which was a sad thing. We did at the very beginning of the year, like January, February, but then we had to pack it up and go, unfortunately. So, and then just life was crazy for us really in 2022. So I was talking to Blaine about this yesterday. I was like, my hunting and fishing life was really boring in 2022, and I'm pissed that I didn't get to do more. But, I say that, but then you look back and we really did do so many things. So, but yeah, sadly, we were on a lease in Uvalde, and we lost the lease because the property was being sold to a mining company as a noise barrier. And, it was beautiful, like completely unmanaged. There was like a bluff side on the property. And it was my dad and my uncle and some buddies were on this property. So they didn't, it's kind of like guys hang out. There was an old like ranch house on the property that had a real fireplace inside made from like old fossils and stuff. So beautiful place. And they lost a guy on the lease. So we got in just the year before. So we didn't get much time there. But yeah, we really spent the beginning of our year just kind of hunting down anything we possibly could, because that was going to be the last time that we were going to be there. So, for myself, fortunately, I'd already gotten some really nice game, the year prior in 2021. And so we really focused on teaching the kids about hunting in general, because we didn't really know, we still don't know where we're going to end up next as far as, buying a property or being on a lease for hunting. So we might have to end up paying for a trip at some point because we don't have anywhere to go right now. But yeah, we really focused on teaching the kids about hunting and harvesting and gun safety and that kind of thing. My older son, Jackson, shot a 9-point in the beginning of January of 22. And he actually did that like laying down, like military style in the Sendero, and from a really good distance. And then I let Wesson take a doe the following weekend in early January. So that was really an experience for me, like as a mom and a new hunter, because I have not been hunting that long. It's not it's never really been my thing. I'm new to hunting as like the past couple of years. So it really was just an eye opener for me, like teaching my own child. Just him and I were in the stand together, and there was like a group of doe that came out that looked really good in size. And so I asked him, I said, hey, I know you want to shoot a buck, but you're only 7, you're 7 at the time. And so just teaching that like base layer of like, you got the rest of your life to do this, like we're going to harvest some meat. There's a reason why we're doing it. Yeah. And, like, are you okay? Like taking the doe? I think it was his very first time ever shooting a deer just in general. And so he really said, yeah, I'll do it. And I helped him get his gun set up. Well, I got a hand-me-down gun. I don't even have my own gun. I mean, it's mine now, but it's a Winchester Model 70, and so it's kind of heavy. It's really loud, and it's got a little kickback. And so I hand Wesson this thing, and he has to stand up because he can't sit down because the level of like the eye, the blind where you could see, he couldn't see, so he had to stand up, and I had to put it. And I explained to him everything. We've already been over all this with the kids, like how they should never put their finger on the trigger and that kind of thing. So I was like, hold your fingers straight on the side of, on top of the trigger, on the side of it, and wait until you have a clear shot. And I was whispering to him, I was like, can you see? I have this on video too. So it's like, I'll have to share. But it's like my top highlight of the year, honestly, because it just was like so touching for me that he shot it and it dropped on the spot. And I was just like, whoa, kid. Like he'd never shot a deer before. And he was so moved by it. We went down to go look at it, gave it a while, made sure it was down, and it was. And I will not forget, he put his hand like on the deer's like chest, and he closed his eyes, and I was like sitting there thinking to myself, like, what is he doing? And he was like, I just know that this meat is for my family. And I was like, oh my gosh. It was like the cutest thing. And so it just made me like feel really reassured as, an outdoors family and woman, that I had taught him the right thing, and that he appreciated it, and he showed that to me, So, I've mentioned this, that, I mean, you have kids, I have kids, my kids are younger. And so it's really important, I feel like, in us doing this podcast and explaining to the younger generation, like, it's not all about showing off, It's not about like what you got and who's got the biggest fish, who's got the biggest deer, the biggest antlers. It's like, it's an experience and like a life learning lesson, and you take what you harvest and that kind of thing. And so that was like my top highlight of just the hunting season. I mean, that's all we really got was January, packed up February, and honestly, we haven't done much hunting since. Whole year went by. I got a fox this year, and that's all I got. So yeah, that's it. So that was one of my other just personal, just hunting highlights. And so some things I took away from that is, and we'll have to get to that in another episode, is I learned how to use a call really well. I have like a Isotech call that I used to get that fox. And, it's kind of funny because they say that like, fox are supposed to be so sly and sneaky, and they're a lot smarter than you think. And they are the only animal so far in using that call that were the easiest to target, to come to that call. Literally, like all the way up to it. Went and sniffed it all the way up, and I was able to just take it like that. And I was like, you're a freaking idiot. Like, it's not real, because I've called bobcat, I've called coyotes, which has not been successful with. Now, those bastards are smart. And the bobcats I thought were really smart, and they were. So I had to kind of like really target one in years past. But yeah, like I said, I shot my big buck a couple years ago now. So I've had to just find something else to do while I sit in the deer stand, because I got me a nice 12 point on the wall. So there's really no point for me to look for anything
That's
else.
Gonna be hard.
Like it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, it's hard to start.
Yeah, so that's yeah, and that's a story for another day. That's a whole story how I came across that thing out there in Uvalde, and it wasn't. Well, I say it wasn't meant for me, but everything happens for a reason. It was meant for me, and so I've spent the past 2 years just learning how to use a call and do like predator hunting mostly, because that's all I've been able to do, and then help the kids. So, yeah, but I think as far as hunting goes, that's what I took away from 2022 and I hope this year we land on some good news that we can get in on a lease, and, or maybe I'll have to do a guided trip where I personally can search for something a little bit bigger. What's that?
Or come to Newcastle.
Yes. I have some new goals this year, and I think everybody kind of says that, like, once you get a nice deer, like with a rifle or, a firearm, that then you have to, move up to like the bow hunting type thing. And I don't know. I just haven't quite gotten into that yet. I don't own a bow myself, and I don't really know much about them. So I guess that's kind of a goal as well for 2023, is to familiarize myself more with a bow. I know, like, we got Jackson one, my older son, last Christmas, a nice one. And so him and I are about the same strength and size. Actually, his wingspan was bigger than mine, which I was surprised to find out.
Oh, wow.
We stood back to back and opened up our arms, and his fingertips went way out further than mine. So I was like, dude, you got some long ass arms. So, but yeah, I definitely need to learn more about that so that I can do something else with my time, because I mean, or you can just call me to predator hunt. I got that down.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what about where's your top? What's your highlights for 2022? I feel like
sadly,
we're gonna have the same.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have kind of the same things for fishing mainly, except for in a few different ways in my solo fishing, where you were not there with me on some of the tournaments that we did last year. Since we were finishing out our ranch time more like in the winter months, we did not do much of like winter fishing at all last year. Whereas so far this winter in 2023, we've been able to really focus more on winter fishing because we don't have a ranch to go to. So we're both kind of happy about that. And that's something too that we've changed since last year, is focusing more on those like winter baits. I always like second guess myself when I use a corky. So that's something that I'm getting a lot better at. And there's honestly not much to it, but I don't know why. It's just such a big bait that I'm all about like the paddle tails and the soft plastics. Like that is like my jam. And I know like we listen, you and I mean, a lot of people listen to a lot of advice from, different guides. And for example, like Jay Watkins, it just sticks in my head. Like every time I listen to him, he can give you all this knowledge and all this info. But when he's done giving you all this knowledge and info, he always says, but if you're unsure, go back to your confidence bait. And so that's something that I learned from last year that I want to take into this year, because one of our highlight moments for me personally was when we fished Legends and Lace in Port O'Connor together. And I remember that we pre-fished the day prior, and I found my confidence bait. Remember, we went to that, what was that store?
It was that little tackle shop where we got.
Yeah, what's it called?
Shoes, because he lost his shoes.
Yeah, I forgot what it's called. It's like the only.
But it was a diamond in the rough finding this little place, because they had everything in Port O'Connor. I can't remember.
Let's see.
Google it. Keep talking, and I'm gonna find it because it's gonna bother me.
I'm gonna see what it was called. It was really nice. They had like boats for sale there and stuff.
Yeah, they had like Smith sunglasses. They had
Geckos.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Geckos, marine, and tackle. So I had this one lure in my box. Actually, I borrowed Blaine's box for the weekend that weekend, I don't know. I think I was like really busy with work that week. So as an angler, lady angler, I have to like be honest. I went to that tournament completely unprepared for like just, so that's really something that's not smart. I will not do that again this year, but it turned out in my favor somehow. Don't know how that happened because I went totally unprepared without my own confidence baits. I didn't know what was in Blaine's box. I just figured like him and I, our brains kind of think alike a lot sometimes when we're in the water with what colors we use, what type of bait we use. And so I threw on, the color is molten. So it's like a white tan with an iridescent shimmer on top. And it's a Lil John XL. Yeah, Mirror Lil John XL, like provoker. So I threw that on the day before. And remember, I caught some of the bigger trout that would have been money day of tournament on that lure. Because the water color, the day before. Because the watercolor was really clear and really pretty. So that bait like was money. I caught redfish pre-fishing and trout. Yeah, slamming it on that bait. And so
waters, and you had those, and it was like, because remember we just rolled up to this spot and he was like, let's just see. And it was like he threw off the front and you threw off the side, and Becca and I are just sitting there waiting. And it was like, holy shit. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah. Yeah, like two reds like back to back, couple trout like back to back on that like reef area that we went to. But the water was a different color that day because remember the wind shifted completely overnight. And so the next day I thought in my mind, I was like, there's no way I'm throwing that bait again. It's way too light and they're not going to bite that. And so I purposely did not put that bait on again that day. I put on another bait that I'd actually, another stupid thing, but it worked out in my favor. I don't know how, right? I don't know how. I used this bait. Actually, I gotta like look it up now because I don't even remember what it's called. That I never used.
It was that little bone colored.
No, it was like, it had a little black back. It was a little tiny like fish.
It was like bone colored with a black back.
Yeah, let's see. Hold on, I'm going to tell you. The Borboleta bait is a hot rod. So it's like a little fish with two treble hooks on it. Right. It reminds me of like a little baby corky, right? So I used that, and that's what I caught our one biggest redfish that weighed 7.61 pounds that we weighed in that day. And we were in the lead for
what was
so
his name?
long.
Say it.
Reggie. We named him Reggie.
No, but the best part that people need to understand is what time of day did you catch that fish?
Shit. First thing in like the morning. It was early as fuck. And I kept that thing alive all day long. And I am proud to also say that
circling you at one point.
Yes, the dolphins were circling me. That poor thing. He stayed alive. We weighed him in alive, and I am proud to say that I let him go at the very end of the day. We let him go, and he went to
live to see another day.
Yeah, I mean, he was a fighter. Like that was amazing. But going back to my point, I guess in that is we didn't find a trout that day to weigh in. We weighed in, or we got all these little. Yeah, we got these little tiny trout. One, but they had to be over 2 pounds, right?
Yeah.
For that tournament.
Stringy 19-inch trout that look like they haven't eaten in a year.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's why I'm still so mad at myself, like to this day. And I'm not going to do this again this year. And this is what I'm taking away from this. This is why I'm saying, like, you know, and as far as like confidence bait.
Yeah.
I only didn't use that lure again the next day because the watercolor had changed so drastically. Like like the wind shifted completely overnight. The water turned into like chocolate milk the next day, but still just the day before the trout were biting that lure. So still I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, why did I not just try it? Why did I not just put it on? I could have maybe caught a better trout that day, or somebody could have had, I said, hey, try that lure that they were eating on yesterday. So I still sit here and I'm just like, we could have maybe turned in another trout or had one better than the one that Rebecca caught. And so that was like my whole takeaway from that tournament. I mean, it was fantastic that we got to weigh in that Reggie. Sadly, we were beat out by 0.02 of a pound.
It's hard
on that red. I'm still bitter about that a little bit.
Like what?
Yeah.
Okay, but
yeah.
Can we talk about the how the morning started?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
Because now we have like a team flag going in the form of
leggings.
I
mean, since we're on this tournament, there's some other highlights that we'll talk about. But since we're on this tournament, why don't you got those things there?
Do you? So it's what time of day is it? 5 a.m. Yeah, it's 5 a.m. and
it was early.
We have to do boat check, and so we're in the back of the boat. Clint's driving the truck, and not only do we have to do boat check, but we have to jump out of the boat to get to go up to this little hut where Chad Pedrick is to pick up these. Was Chad doing it that morning? I can't remember. To pick up our scales.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we all have leggings on. I think even Becca had shorts on. But Sarah and I typically wear leggings because it's just probably, I think, like a false sense of like security away from jellyfish, even though it's not going to protect us from jellyfish, but it makes us feel better about life. So, plus we've just kind of gotten into that's just our thing. So I'm wearing leggings. I'm wearing my favorite leggings. They're black, like a camo print from Lululemon. And we go to jump out of the boat, and I try to do it gracefully, and because I tried to do it gracefully, I ended up ripping my ass out of my leggings. Now, mind you, I don't believe I had anything on underneath. And these two, Becca and Sarah, are like, oh, it's fine. It's not that big. I'm like, they're walking up to y'all put a towel around me, didn't you? To like, or y'all stood behind me to like, I can't even remember how we did this. It was so early to go up to the little place where Chad was to get the fish scales. But anyways, long story short, I had packed an extra pair of shorts. And rule of thumb, ladies, especially if you're going out on a full day, knowing you're going to be out on the water all day, especially if you're waiting, take backup bottoms. Just trust me, because this isn't the first time I've needed them. But so we get back on the boat, and actually before we get back on the boat, y'all are analyzing the rip, and you're like, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Just go with it. Just roll with it. I can literally feel the breeze. Like, feel the breeze through these leggings. So we get to like where we have to like take the boat. We put the boat in, and we're lined up. We're all numbered. So they call out your number, and you're free to go. So I can't remember what number we are, but we're sitting there waiting. And so we have our lights off, and except just the overhead, whatever light that is. And y'all are still analyzing it. And I was like, no, it's not going to work. So let me just show you what my friends told me was fine. Just pull these up for a second. Hello. Hello. Oh, it's fine. You're totally fine. This is not fine, y'all. Wait, let me from the back. This is the butt. Literally, butt cheek hanging out. And my friends are like, oh, it's totally fine. See that? Yeah. But Sarah was so sweet. She washed them for me so that we could keep them forever. Because shortly after that, then what happened? Do you remember what happened? Do you not remember? Hold on.
Oh my God, yes. Poor thing. I still okay, so Lindsay rips her ass open, and thankfully you did have shorts though, right? Because you put shorts on over that.
Shorts on over the leggings, so I just looked like a weirdo all day. I don't know.
But then, I don't even think the sun had fully come all the way out. Had it not, it was still a little dark, and we made a stop, and we kind of looked around, observed the area that we felt like we were going to fish in. And our guide that took us, he just kind of didn't give us a warning that we were taking off again, and he just went, and our other friend that was on the back of the boat literally just fucking flipped off the back. And she just fell in the water. And thankfully this is a summer tournament. Thankfully this is a summer tournament, right? This is June? It was June 25th.
Into June, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was first thing in the morning though. So she just went for a full dunk in the water. And the best part though was his reaction.
For 30 minutes.
Oh, she was pissed. But the best thing was his reaction, right? Do you remember? He just looks back and he goes, "Oh shoot, back up. Hop back up." Yeah. Nothing. So yeah. So far, right? We have go with your confidence bait from last year to this year, if you're pre-fishing for a tournament or just fishing in general, and always take backup clothing, leggings, shirts. You never know, honestly, how we have to get into the boat sometimes, rolling in, you could rip literally anything.
Yeah.
So
I've got boots, even I've taken boots with us before.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Now even in the wintertime, it's a little pricey to do it, but Blaine and I both have 2 sets of waders. I have my nice ones, my favorites, and then just in case something happens to those, I got my backup shitty ones that are backup that we keep in the boat console, and they reek of gasoline from the boat, but rather be dry than freezing my ass off out there. So
I know tournament season's probably up there, our tournaments that we do together are up there on my highlights too. So I'm kind of encroaching in on your tournament talk.
No. So let's go back to the ranch life and stuff. You're in 2022. What were some highlights that you had that you learned from and things that you want to accomplish this year? Well, hunting season is a ways away now, so we're starting to focus on fishing now, but just what you ended 2022 with.
So I didn't get to spend, I did spend quite a bit of time at the lease. We have a deer lease just north of Fort Worth. So it's about a couple hours. It's not actually far from where I'm from. So we typically go out there, obviously opening weekend, first weekend in November, and then we live and breathe out there. But we had, I had a late season, 4th season elk hunt, rifle elk hunt in Colorado this year. So that kind of took us out of rut time for here. So we didn't get to spend as much time out there as we normally do. I don't really know why. I think just work commitments and kid commitments and the Rockport house, but I don't ever typically get to spend as much time fishing in the fall as you do. And it kind of takes me out of the tournaments that might be in that time frame. In fact, I tell you guys, if it's after October-ish, I'm probably not going to be in. So we try to maximize that time. So I'm not a bow hunter. So I don't get to take advantage of that early season when it comes to hunting at the lease. That is actually a goal of mine. And not necessarily because I feel like it's just something that I need to have in my list of things that I want to accomplish, but I feel like you have more opportunities and it opens up more seasons and things of that nature. Plus I think it's just the overall challenge, of the ability to be able to work wind and do things with, with the bow as far as, I could be 300-400 yards with a rifle and shoot, a buck, but to get, 40 yards and under with a bow and shoot the same buck. I just feel like there's got to be a little bit of something exciting about that. So that is definitely on my list of things to do. But as far as hunting, I didn't get to spend as much time at the lease, but the time that I did spend was worth its weight in gold. So I have been watching a buck now 3 years. I think I've watched him 3 years. I'm the only one that has seen him on our property physically, like with my own eye, and then of course on my trail cams. So I have seen him so often that I have endearingly named him Tall Boy, because he was so unique that he wasn't your typical wide eight, or he didn't have like these just massive brow tines. He didn't have the drop tines. But he was just super, super special and super unique. And when I started watching him, God, 3 years ago, I just couldn't stop looking at him. Like, I was just obsessed with him. You could ask anybody that knows me. You've heard of the stories of Tall Boy. You've seen pictures of him. I'll send you pictures from the trail cam. And last year is probably the first year that I actually thought, okay, I might shoot him this year. This might be the year. But then I got eyes on him again, and I was like, nope. We're going to give him another year, and we're going to look at him again. And I would show pictures. This is what's funny, is I would show pictures of this buck to other guys, and they were like, why did you not shoot that deer? But they're just looking at the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
And so the age of the deer, and trying to be an ethical huntress. I hate that term. An ethical hunter and a management mindset is just that he wasn't ready. And I ended up actually taking a really great buck the year before, whenever I was contemplating Tall Boy, just because I saw him and I was like, it's just not ready. Fast forward to this year, I randomly asked Brian one day, I said, I can get work wrapped up, because I knew of my commitments that were coming up. It was going to kind of take away from my time. But obviously, we were going on this hunt in Colorado. I said, I'm not going to be able to spend any time in the blind. I'm like, if I can get work wrapped up, you want to head out there to the lease? And he was like, of course. He's like, yeah. So I don't know why, but I was just motivated to be in the blind that day. And I had been watching him. I had seen him early at the opening weekend, and I did not shoot him. I just couldn't do it. Like, it was just, I didn't want to do it that weekend. I wanted to get eyes on other things. I just was not, I don't think I was mentally and emotionally ready, because I, for whatever reason, have this connection with this deer. And so I finally saw him again. I started noticing patterns on my trail cams, and I started noticing times of days. And he's super active at night, which a lot of deer are, obviously, but he had a unique pattern. And then it was like he would wake up and decide to hang around my area around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it became a pattern to the point where I was like, I'm going. So it wasn't 30 minutes. I was in my blind and he showed up. And I remember, of course, I just started shaking. And it was not the ideal shot. It was not a shot I even wanted to take. But I remember I was communicating with Brian. He was in another stand on our wheat field. And he was just like, just take a breath, So I did, and I waited for a little bit. And finally, he got into a place where I felt comfortable to take a good shot. And you never want to take a shot that you don't feel 100% comfortable in, because obviously you don't want to, the deer does not need to suffer. You want the shot to be clean, you want it to be fast, and you want the deer down. And so I was ready for it. And I actually can say that I harvested Tall Boy this year. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of it. And we thought about showing pictures and things like that on this, but because of like this fancy ring light that I have going on up here now, like, it's just not, it shows a horrible glare, but it also shows like every fingerprint on any little device that I have. But what I do have is what's kind of interesting too is that, again, I was the only one that had seen him. I also found his sheds.
Nice.
So the year before, we were just walking the property, and there was just glistening one of his sheds. But you can kind of see, he's just so unique. And
So cool.
What's interesting about this deer too is I did not notice this until I got eyes on him closer. When I went to look at him after I realized he was down. He had been fighting, or something was going on with his eye. He completely lost his eye. So I believe it was his right eye. I mean, it was there, but you could tell it was dead, like it was not functioning. So the other side of it is I noticed that he was deteriorating, from what I had seen, even just in weeks prior, not from just rut type of deterioration, but he was not getting better. His antlers were not improving. He was, in our opinion, he was at his prime. And so it made me feel even better, obviously, about choosing to harvest him this year. I don't know, obviously, you don't know if you're ever going to see another buck from year to year, but just something about it, this looking at him, once I got up close, I realized I was like, this was a very ethical decision in my point, because I just don't feel like he was going backwards. If that makes any sense. So that was my highlight. I did get to go on, like I mentioned, an elk hunt in Colorado. Unfortunately, you cannot shoot what you do not see. So I spent a lot of time in the snow, and not for lack of persistence, but the weather was just not conducive. The weather was it was not getting cool enough. It was not getting cold enough. I saw some amazing mule deer. I'd never wished so bad that I'd had a mule deer tag in my pocket. But it was not in the cards. So this will be my second year. Last year was my second year to go on an elk hunt and come home with tag soup. So without jumping ahead, obviously 2023, I feel like this is my year for an elk. This is it. This is my year. So I am fixing to actually turn on the gas whenever it comes to preparation for that, because I fully intend on going back to New Mexico and self-inflicting all kinds of physical misery on myself in the form of altitude and deadfall and everything else. But other than that, the other side of the hunting aspect was that in preparation for that elk hunt in Colorado, I really did step up my game in the sense of long range shooting, because I'll be damned if I got up there and there was one, say 500-600 yards out, and I had an easy shot, but because of my restrictions or my lack of preparation or my insecurities, whatever you want to call it, I didn't want to let that be a factor. So I spent a good amount of time this year, not at just a range, but at an actual long range shooting facility. And I was super proud of myself to hit that 800 mark. So that gives me full confidence. Although I do need to consistently spend more time out there to keep that up. But it was a goal of mine to qualify to even shoot on the range, let alone hit targets, 500-600 plus. So there's something very, very gratifying about doing that, because you realize you're really your own limitations. Like a lot of what you limit on yourselves is typically right up here. So, a lot of times Brian has to talk me out of that, especially when we're in those scenarios. But I also discovered that I really like shooting prone. So I feel a lot more confident. I love the feel of it. It was intimidating getting into these positions that I was having to get into to try to see, because you just never know what you're going to have available to you whenever you're 9,000, feet in the air, whatever it may be. But it was super satisfying. So I highly encourage, especially female hunters, if you want to get better, you've got to put the time in. So find a range, start out small, even know how to operate your gun, safety first, and spend the time at the range because it truly does pay off. Yeah. So that's my hunting recap. I didn't shoot any big pigs this year. In fact, I didn't see any big pigs, and I'm still kind of bummed about that. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
But it's not over for us. So it's still cold. It's coyote breeding season. So
yes,
if I physically can get back out there, I will.
Yeah. I mean, I just learned something just from, listening to you. Because like I said, I was not really ever into hunting. It's not something that I grew up doing. So it's something that I just got into since we became a part of that lease that we were on in the past couple of years. And so, if you truly are like unfamiliar with your gun or with your shooting, it's just like anything else. Practice takes perfect. Even in the fishing world, you can't just go out there and like expect to know how to work a lure, right? Like that's why a lot of times they'll advise, people just anybody go practice in your swimming pool, go practice in like your nearest pond or creek and, learn how to work that thing. YouTube's like our best friend these days, right? Like I learn and watch everything on YouTube. Even how to tie a knot on, tie these lures. I learned on YouTube because I just like Blaine and I know you know this, it's kind of funny. Like, although he is my husband, when it comes to certain things, and fishing is one of them, we're like extremely impatient with each other. So, and maybe that's something, and maybe that's something this year that I kind of, want to work on, is becoming a little bit more of like patient. And
that with you though, because you've got the patience of Job when it comes to me. And I'm like, Sarah, and you're like, it's okay, calm down. And then Blaine's like, move 2 feet up. And you're like, just give me my space. I am
Don't
good.
Tell me what to do. I know. I always joke with him and I'm always like, you know what? And he hates it. Like he gets pissed off. And like this has nothing to do with what we were talking about, but he hates it. Like he gets really mad because I'll like just push his buttons. I'm like, when I go fishing with other people, I always catch all kinds of shit. And when I go with you, I don't fucking catch anything because you're just in my ear, like telling me what to do. And then you know what he does too? He'll be out like in the spot, and he'll be like, oh man, this is a good one. They're over here. And then like he reels in like a shellfish. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, they're over here. And so he's like, come over here. And then I'll get over there. And he's like, okay, yeah, they're not here. Let's go. And I'm like, I just walked all the way over here.
This like reef.
Yeah, like I walk a lot slower. Like I take my time. I will say this. I don't know how Blaine ever catches anything because he walks so fast. And I'm like, the trout can hear you, bro. Like settle down.
No, so we went pre-fishing we're skipping ahead to Laundry on the Bay, but when he took us, I think that was, Laundry on the Bay. And we were in that little area and I got to actually just sight cast right there off of the shore. He's like probably 50 yards from me, or 100 yards probably. And you can't hear for shit out there. And so, especially when you're talking against the wind and he's yelling at me like I'm you, he's like, they're coming. You see it? I'm like, he's like this big out there compared to what I can see. I'm like, what are you doing at? And he's like, you missed it. I'm like,
yeah, it's like if you don't jump when Blaine says jump, it's like, holy shit. Like sometimes I'm scared for the kids because it's like, you better fucking do it right now or
he's so competitive. I love
he's
fishing
competitive. Yeah.
And he just, he gets you. Like he keeps pushing you.
Yeah. So that's, I guess so overall, just going back to everything that you were saying, sorry, we went a little off track there for a second. I just get excited about stuff. I guess, so take away from your, 2022 to 2023, you said you spent 3 years, right? Watching your tall boy? 3 full years. Because, now I feel like it's kind of sad in just today's, times. I don't think because everything is so available to us like this, that a lot of people don't have the patience to wait for something like that. And they're taking deer like left and right, and deer that just aren't fully grown to their potential to be like, a beautiful stud that not only is meat for your freezer, but something beautiful on your wall. And then you gave him his full life before, he starts to deteriorate. Yeah. And then starts to, go down from there. So like that just goes to show your appreciation for just the species and for the sport in waiting and being patient, because a lot of people now just don't do that. And so if there's anything that, if someone is listening to this and they're like, dang, that deer like looks really good, and they wanted to shoot it this past year and they didn't, and you got lucky because he came back every time and you would see him. Whereas a lot of people, yeah,
you don't know
because
if that deer's going to come back from year after year. I don't know why
right.
he consistently did, but the one thing I can say is if you question the size of the deer, or like you're having a hard time justifying shooting, then don't shoot it.
Yeah.
That should be the first thing. Like, don't shoot it. And that's kind of what I didn't, I waited, several times. I wanted to get full eyes on him. I wanted to be 100% confident that, that this was a good time to shoot this deer. And so I think same goes for does. I see people post on social media sometimes and they post does and they're like, got some meat for the freezer. And I'm like, did you? Because like, what did that?
Yeah, that's sad when they like.
So it's not just about, I got my deer or I got my doe or I got my buck, or it is whenever it comes to harvesting an animal for meat, it's more than it's just not antlers on the wall anymore.
Very true. And that's the other thing too, is I feel like social media has had such an impact on the hunting and fishing world just in general, that everyone, they want to take something just to take something for that photo that they can like show off. And that's just not what it's about, and sometimes like we're all guilty of it. Like we like when we catch like the smallest thing, it's like, oh, look, I caught something. I didn't get skunked today. And like, you got to let the world know. I mean, but at the same time, we all do that for
trout stringer. I've never posted just this big trout string of trout. I mean, especially since the freeze. Because number one, I'm not an eater of trout. I mean, every once in a while, like if I keep a trout, it's a, small trout, legal small trout. And it's mainly because I want some trout tacos. But when it comes to trout, I have nothing just does it for me whenever it comes to, hey, look at my stringer of trout. I've just never been that person though. I don't really do heads either though, because I typically only keep what I know I'm going to eat.
Right.
So,
yeah. And we talked about that last time too. We talked about that in our last episode. It's so important. And I guess, also just going back to what I mentioned in my highlights is, the biggest highlight for me of last year was just teaching my kids about this stuff, because they're getting to an age where they're just now starting to become interested, like really interested in wanting to do these things. Because when they're younger, it is really hard to get Wesson specifically, because he's younger than Jackson by 4 years, to get on the boat and spend some time out there. It was like we couldn't spend more than an hour on the boat together because he'd start to throw a fit, like he was too hot, too cold, too windy, whatever. We weren't catching anything at the time, and so he'd just like throw a fit and want to go. So, but now that they're like of age, it's so important to just teach this, talk about this, put this out there about just being patient and taking your time, taking that deer when it's ready. If like you were lucky enough to see it, or, taking and letting the fish go, because the kids get really excited too when we go and they start catching a lot. Yeah. And I told them this last trip, I was like, boys, our freezer has plenty of redfish. And then I don't even like it to be frozen that long. Like if we don't eat it within like a month and a half, it's like we still eat it. because we have before, but I keep what I know that if I'm not going to eat it that week or within the next couple of weeks after I put it in the freezer and defrost it, I told them, I was like, we don't need to keep these. I was like, they were super fun. I explained to them, like, they're super fun to catch, super fun to reel in, great fight. I was like, but let's give it back. Let's give them back so they can go make more babies and grow bigger. Next time when you come back, they'll be harder to fight, because they'll be bigger. So, biggest thing for me, teaching these little youngsters.
Yeah, and we take, I think so many people now, obviously it's like such a sport and it's a hobby and whatnot, but where it's a novelty or let's go take this. But like if you catch a bull red, and it's 28 inches or over, why are you keeping it? I mean, I see
things are nasty anyway.
I have an extra tag, but I've never tagged a 28 inch redfish. I can keep my 22 incher. I'm fine to eat that one. So if I need fish.
They're kind of like, it reminds me of like a big old hog though anyway, like their meat's they're good and they can get like worms in them and stuff, so they're just fun catch, let them go. No need to keep that.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's talk about a couple of our other highlights. I know you already mentioned Lingerie on the Bay. So us together now, our highlights together, the consistent tournaments that you and I have fished for the past 2 years. And it's kind of cool because they range in different bay areas, right? So we start off with Babes on the Bay, which is in Rockport. And then we fish Legends and Lace, which is in Puerto Conner. Yes, it's our team.
It's our team from last year at Babes on the Bay. And we swear we're gonna tell you where that came from. But we also
yes.
Right? Yeah. Names
That's the best part. I felt like a real professional with my name on the back. Yeah. That was a good touch. I like that. But anyway, so we
expected them to look like when they got here.
I mean, shoot, I like them. They look good. They kind of have this little like fade. They fade down into like a different color. I like that ombre look. But yeah, so we did that. We did Babes on the Bay. We did Legends and Lace 2 years in a row now. Legends and Lace. The first one was in 2022, right? And then 21.
And we did 21.
Yeah, so we did. We came back for that one. And then Lingerie on the Bay is one that we've done for the past 2 years as well. And so I guess let's start with our highlight from Babes on the Bay, right? Because that one is currently in registration right now. They've opened up registration for that one for 2023. When that one happens in May, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. We love that one.
Each tournament has its own purpose and its own level of whatever you want to call it, involvement as far as like skill and things like that. So Babes on the Bay is really more, anybody can do it. You have a fishing license and you've got your registration fee, anybody can do it. So,
right.
There's, I want to say Jen told me like to estimate 1,350 women anglers this year. Yeah. So,
wow. Is the bay big enough for all of those people?
Yeah. Good thing they can.
So,
the borders are pretty vast, but yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. But I'll touch on that actually, since you're saying if that's the projected amount of people. So the great thing about this one, right? And we are in, again, so these tournaments that Lindsay and I have fished together, they're female tournaments. So if you're listening to this and you're like first timer and never fished a tournament before, if you're a guy, sorry, this one's not for you. Just there's that. So Babes on the Bay, again, it's in Rockport. Registration is open for it now. Lindsay and I have fished it for the past 2 years together as a team. But because she's mentioning the number of projected female anglers that are going to be registered for this tournament, it's great because it's a CCA tournament, and it's probably the largest CCA women's tournament in Texas. I think. I mean, I would have to say.
I want to say it's like national CCA is the largest. I'll have to double check, but
So big. It's so big. It's such a fun time. And, I made the comment, like, is there enough room in the bay for all these people? And the great thing though about this is just because it's CCA and because it's so big, they use an app that's called Zero Chaos. So you don't physically, Zero Chaos. Where did I get Zero Chaos from? Oh my God. I used to work at a place that used No, I used to work at a place that used Zero Chaos as how I would clock my hours in. I think that's where I got that from. Side note. Fishing chaos. My bad. Fishing chaos. So you don't actually bring in the physical fish, right? So you take pictures of the fish on a board that you have to buy for the tournament. I think it's like $20. So we have ours. We've had ours for the past couple of years. Yeah. And so we take ours like every time, so we don't have to repurchase it. And you turn in the fish that way by photo on this app. And so you don't have, like, we're not out there like all these ladies like just slaying and like killing fish, So that's the great thing about that one. And it's just a lot of fun, right? It's just no trout. It's all redfish. So even the redfish, they get to go all live another day because you don't keep any of them. You're not allowed to. If you're gonna weigh anything in, it is against the rules, right? To keep the redfish, you have to let them go. Or else you don't get caught on that lie detector test on the polygraph.
That's happened.
Which I hope to take this year. Just saying.
That'd be so. Just polygraph me. I might get a shirt. Like, we need shirts or hats that say, "Please polygraph me."
Right.
Please.
Yeah. So
it's the other side of it too is the committee and all the volunteers behind it do such a really good job of promoting the tournament, but also taking care of the anglers in the sense of they have a huge captain's meeting. They always have great food, great vendors, great music, great everything. And so it is kind of a little social, environment, especially for people that don't really know what they're doing or want to get involved. It's like, I've met so many people at these tournaments, and then connected even further with them, these women at these tournaments, and connected on social media. Now we've fished with some of them. We plan to fish with some of them. We support each other in other adventures. And so it really is a good, healthy, positive environment. There are negative naysayers at all these tournaments. Our advice would be just to not hang out with them, because they are doing this tournament by the book. They do it up and up, even though it isn't a live weigh-in. I am telling you, you can't, I don't know how they'd manipulate fish. I'm not one of those people, but they scrutinize these photos. And so you've got your top of the top people looking at these images. So great people, great environment, great goodie bags. And great jerseys that they give out, these fishing shirts. So if you have never fished a day in your life and you have a few girlfriends that are in the same boat with you, this is the tournament for you. Yeah.
I have to agree. Yeah.
Young girls that want to fish something like this, they even have a young division. So is it they call it the Babettes? I think it's the Babettes.
Yes, I forgot about that. You're right. Yeah, there's a young girls division. There's a fly fishing division.
Just like,
and you can use
guided, live, live bait, artificial only, any bait. There's so many different divisions.
Yeah, so it's literally for anybody and everybody. So, and just to touch on that, I think Babes on the Bay was my very first tournament ever.
It was my first tournament. Yeah, it was ours together. We were the first time we'd ever done it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We didn't know what.
So, yeah, I had no idea like what I was doing. I'd never done a tournament before. I was nervous out of my mind. I thought it was like a super serious matter, and I was so scared to if I had to go back and like think about it. I was so nervous. I had no idea. Yeah.
We caught trout all day. I think we got one. It was undersized. Yeah, but
that. Yeah, our first time we caught a lot of trout, no reds. Yeah, last year though we learned a little bit. So each time you do these things, you learn a little bit. So my husband Blaine took us last year, and so he learned that was his first time ever taking a group of, first time in Rockport, first time taking a group of females on the boat, first time doing a tournament. Blaine's never, no, I take that back. He's done a tournament before, but not one where he was like the guide. He's not a guide. So you don't, so just so everyone knows, you can have a male boat driver or they can be a licensed guide. So if it's your first time doing this and you want to do it and you want to hire a guide, you totally can. Or if you just have a buddy who drives a boat and is familiar with the area because you want to be safe, you can have a male boat driver. So Blaine had gone, I guess, the month prior to Rockport and did some fishing and kind of explored the area just to prepare. He did have some hiccups, right? Because y'all scraped the bottom of the boat on a reef like the day prior. So, and then this was hilarious too, because I was working and I couldn't make it out until like late on Friday pre-fishing, and you were already there. And so I let, I told him, I was like, well, you got to go out there and take these girls out. Like, go find the fish because I want to be in something tomorrow,
Yeah.
So yeah. But we ended up actually doing really well. What did we placed like 13th, and how many teams ended up weighing in? Like 60 something, or I don't remember.
In our division. There were over 300 teams registered, but yeah, I want to say 60, 70 that weighed in. A lot of people weighed in last year. It was a good day of fishing, but we caught all of our fish in one area, and we got maybe an hour.
Yeah.
And then
it was like
Stingray City.
Well, it was like once this major time turned on, it was either a major or a minor. I don't know which one it was. A time turned on.
Gotta have you over there at the major. Gotta have you over there at the major. Yeah. And it took us forever to walk to it because it was sinking sand. So that was
gosh. And so that was the thing. Yeah, that was the thing about this spot though, right? So this tournament's in May. Early May. So it's just the summertime is just getting like heated up. So these fish, I felt like at this time, because it was like it was a little later. It was like almost noon, I feel like, when we started catching. So it started to heat up outside. And so we went to this super muddy spot where, like, if you don't know anything about just redfish or fish in general, once the sun starts coming out and it's hot and it's warming up, they go like find someplace cooler, which would be like in the mud or like deeper waters. And so we went to this freaking muddy spot. I was literally like, felt like I was swimming in mud that went up to my thighs. And we caught all of our redfish there. And Blaine whipped out his camera and he was taking all these videos, all these pictures. He was like all smiles, like so proud of himself, mainly that he put us on these fish. And he was standing there like watching all three of us. We had a three girl team. You're allowed 4. We had a 3-girl team, and he just watched us and was like ecstatic so to say, just to cut to the chase, he loved it. And so he's going to be our guide again this year. And he's pumped up. And so I think we all learned from last year that, like, I know he definitely learned because he was like, his fucking panties were in a wad last year. Like, he was so nervous, I think, for us to like catch something. He was like yelling at us. Like,
it was so great.
He called this girl that he didn't even know. Like, just, I don't even want to say it. He was like yelling at us because we got our lines twisted and shit. And he was just going off. But I think we all learned from that one, since we've all now fished with Blaine. But we're bringing on 2 new girls this year. So we'll see how that goes.
New, but new to us on Babes. So
new to our team. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I want to say that was a real big learning lesson.
Got something in my
mind. Uh-oh.
I know.
Yeah, and then after that, we kind of already talked about Legends, right? So we moved on to June. Another big highlight of our year, moved on to Legends. That was our second time doing that. And I think hopefully it just gets better, because the first year we did that, it was awful. We didn't catch a damn thing, like hardly all day.
It was a hard day. It was a hard day for
A
everybody.
hard day.
13 teams weighed in, maybe, right?
Yeah, with like
No. I think the winning stringer
was 13 pounds.
13 pounds. 13.
Which is nothing.
This is nothing. So that should tell you something. But I will say, I know we've already kind of talked quite a bit about legends, and we should probably talk about lingerie on the bay, but I do love the Legends tournament. Like, it's hard. Like, it's all artificial. It's shit weather for trout fishing. It's late June. It's Port O'Connor. It's hard. It's not easy. And so I would say that, I mean, we fished it with the level of experience that we had, at the time, of course, was not up there, but we're crazy. We're just like, let's go.
And so this is a great example.
I wouldn't do that with just learning how to throw a line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say is, if you're just getting into this and you want to try a tournament, that is probably not one to try because it's all artificial. It's super legit. You got to bring the fish in live. You got to weigh them in live, release them. And it goes by weight and not by length. So like Babes on the Bay is completely different. That's beautiful for a first timer. Legends and Lace is a little bit more competitive. Some real lady anglers get out there. Not saying that you can't be that person. I'm just saying that it's a little bit more, they tried to replicate like, the male Legends tournament, right? Well, I say male, there's no rules that say like females can't do that tournament.
The original Legends tournament. Yeah. Which is coming up.
Yeah. That they just specified like it's dedicated to the women. And unfortunately, yes, like you said, it's in late summer. So the trout fishing,
skinny little.
I was burning out there. Yeah, skinny. So, and they have to be over 2 pounds, which is very hard for us to find at that time.
That much.
Yep.
Honestly.
Yeah. So we only
on this tournament, Chad Pederick and his group like really do put on a great tournament. Like it is so streamlined, so professional. But at the same time, like the last 2 years, it's only been going for 2 years for the women's division. But the 2 years that they have done it, each year, they raise money for somebody in need. And it's typically somebody that is suffering from an illness. Last year, it was this precious little girl. The year before that, it was for this amazingly strong woman. And unfortunately, both of these individuals have cancer. And so it was to help raise awareness, obviously, but to also raise funds to help minimize their family's financial strain, which we know can take so much worry off the plate as it is. But we get to meet them and we get to see their families and see, all of these people that have come together to fish this tournament. We watch them open up their pocketbooks and us included and donate to helping, raise money. So we love being part of that. I'm curious to see who they're going to support this year. But they get great sponsors that give away these amazing things and then people bid on them and it just turns into a really positive environment. And then you just get to go find 2 pound trout all day.
Yes.
But I really enjoy that part of it. So, and that was a really good merchandise. So.
Yeah, great cause. That's for a great cause too. I was in tears last year and
Brooklyn.
Oof.
It was Brooklyn.
Yeah. God bless Brooklyn. We need to check in on her. I have not seen anything about her lately. So maybe after we get off this episode, we can touch base on Brooklyn. But yeah, that is for a great cause. I definitely an eye opener, and an appreciative for this community and that we can use this platform, this hunting and fishing world, that we can use these things to bring people together for stuff like that. It's awesome. I mean, it's just like anything else. You can turn, any kind of sport or function into a gathering to support other people. But I love that, because we do this and this is one of our passions, that they could turn this, that tournament into a great cause for that. So, but that's a little bit on those two. And then we'll go back to, I always like to call this one my last tournament of the year, because it's right before the kids go back to school.
Yeah.
It's the weekend after my kids start school.
Yeah. It's fun. So, everybody is in that mood, it's like, we're just like, we get a little bit stupider, we get a little crazier, we get a little bit livelier. It becomes a fun day of fishing, regardless of what we do.
Yeah. Well, I love this one because it's more like my zone, like it's closest to me in my house. So Lingerie on the Bay, it's in Matagorda. So it is the closest to me. We had fished a CCA tournament called Heels and Reels prior, 2 years ago, I guess. But when they brought it back, they changed the dates. And I think it was in October or November. But anyway, so
it's going to be the same weekend as Babes on Baffin.
Right. Yeah. So we kind of have had a little fishing knowledge for tournaments in each area. We didn't get to do the Heels on Reels this last year because they moved it from the date that it was supposed to be on. But Lingerie on the Bay is another one. So because me personally, I love them because I'm close to Matagorda and I'm close to Galveston. I'm just like within an hour's distance for both. Whereas Port O'Connor and Rockport takes me a couple hours, 3 hours to get out there.
I'm just screwed.
Yeah, I love this one. But I can hear you now. So let's talk about Lingerie on the Bay. So this is another really good one, I feel like, right? If you're a first timer, because you can use bait, you can use lures. And this one actually a little bit different from Babes on the Bay is that you can have another male on the boat. You can have a deckhand. So you can have a male driver, guided or non-guided, and you can also have a male deckhand. So, which we tried out last year. We did not use a deckhand the year before, but I felt like having the deckhand was so much more fun because it was one of our other friends' husbands too. And so I felt like it was way more fun. And so what we learned last year is do not drink a lot the night before. And make sure everyone goes to the bathroom plenty of times before you leave in the morning.
We'll just leave it.
I can't even.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't want to. Well, what the fuck? Let's just go ahead. We had one. Listen, it wasn't you or I. So we had one. We had one leaning over on the boat, just throwing up. We had another one in the water, just shitting all over the place.
It was those margaritas y'all had.
I was sick. I felt fine.
Yeah, I didn't drink them.
But thankfully, the sun had not come up yet. We were in our spot, and it was dark as hell, so nobody saw anything. Whatever was floating in the water at that time,
I think that was adding to it.
We chummed up the water, that's for sure. Perfect title for this episode and how to end this episode. We 100%, as a team, chummed up the water that morning before we got started. Yeah. Shit, throw up, you name it. It was in there. All of it. The margaritas, the chicken strips, spaghetti?
No, Stroganoff. Tim's homemade stroganoff.
Yep. So our guide, right, that for this tournament, Captain Tim Andel. We go way back. He's a really funny guy. He's probably by far next to Brett Sweeney, I have to say, is really fucking hilarious. So if you enjoy wade fishing, because Tim loves to wade fish, right? We'll just throw this out there. And you need someone with a sense of humor. Like, Tim cracks me up. He pulls jokes out of like the thin air. I'm like, I don't know how he comes up with this stuff, right? He's hilarious. But yeah, he took us the second year in 2022. First year we actually did good in 21. We won a check. We came in 6th place.
But you're going to have to tell, like, we're going to have to, like, tell them, like, where the name came from since we're on the topic.
Lingerie on the Bay is the tournament that we fish. That is where our Titty Deep name came from, thanks to Captain Tim. First year we fished this tournament, we went all day without a trout, and we were stressing, right? Because we didn't have a trout. And it was about, I don't know, almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, and so he took us out to this reef where it was going to be really deep. And he says, y'all are going to have to get out and you're going to have to walk. Like, you got to go deep.
And he was like, hustle. Get out there.
Hustle. Get out there because we're running out of time. And he's like, you got to get out there like titty deep.
Yeah.
And all of us were just like, I don't know. Like, it just stuck with us. And sure the hell enough, I'm not even kidding. We went out to like right freaking here, pulled our trout out. That was like, I got one that was right on like 21, right? And then you got a 21 and a hair.
19 and a quarter. Yeah, we took both of them back.
And both of them back. And sure enough, so thus the name Titty Deep, and it stuck with us ever since. So thank you, Captain.
Since we've actually caught like some of our bigger fish, some of our actual like in the money type fish, we've always had to go Titty Deep.
Titty Deep.
I mean, your elbows
never fails.
You're trying to keep your reel out of the water. You're standing on your tippy toes, and I can't really lift my arms, but yeah, you're like casting like.
Yep. And so thus the name was born.
Deep was born. Yeah. So we definitely ran with it. So for those of you who had perverted thoughts about what the name actually meant, it was really just about fishing and finding a trout.
Yep. Just about finding a trout in the deep.
And it stuck with us. We still say it on tournament days. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh, it's so fun. But what was really funny about that is like Tim had been kind of quiet like most of the day. Like he had just met me. I think he had just met. No, did he know Sandra? Had he ever met Sandra? Okay. So I was new to the group, but he was like super trying to be like all guide professional, and like he was like super encouraging. And then it was like when shit started hitting the fan and we didn't have our trout, I mean, he just like light on like full blown Tim mode. It was like, get out there, do this, threw my shark back. Like, get out there. We don't need no shark. I'm here to catch a trout. Go titty deep. Get your bird. I'm like, okay. And then this year it was like, he just started out that way. It was like, you know what to be doing. Don't be doing that. Yep. Why are you doing that? Why are you casting like that? No.
Yeah, he got comfortable real quick. Now he knows us. So I expect for this year to be like game on. Like I also heard that we're not doing blackjack this year. It's going to be
like that. I would rather do the blackjack because I think that it levels the playing field for everybody. And it's just a really cool dynamic. And if you don't have your stringer, you know, like it's kind of cool to have to go back up there with a trout, flounder, and redfish.
I love it. It just made it like that much more competitive. So yeah, it's like you're saying, like if you don't have your stringer, then I mean that's just too bad. You don't get to weigh in. But yeah, so I hear they're coming away from that this year. I guess we'll find out. But TBD. But we'll be back at that one this year too. Another great one if you're in this area, need a close one near Matagorda. That's a great one for starters too. So we'll be there. You can come say hi. Our team name for that one though is not Real Deep, although it's Real Screamers. So yeah, although we got this name for our other tournament from Lingerie on the Bay, our Lingerie on the Bay name is Real Screamers. So don't go try to take our name because it's taken. We're the official.
OG.
Real Screamers Official, OG.
And what is that one? Which one does that support? Is it the Fort Bend?
That's CCA too.
Yeah, it's CCA, but it's that whole Fort Bend. Is it Fort Bend chapter? So they they do a really good tournament. They have a really nice captain's meeting the night before, and always have like really cool giveaways and ways that you can get more involved. And so it's a good crew. Like they run it really well and super professional, but super friendly people. Like, just never met a stranger down there.
Absolutely. All the things.
Another thing that I like about that one is we tend to see people that we know now, like from other tournaments. If you think about it, like we see more people we know at that tournament from other things that we've done.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. All these things are like great networking opportunities. So again, like if you're just getting into this, you just want to try one, like you are guaranteed to see some of the same ladies from like tournament to tournament. It's just like, it's a hobby. It's a thing we do. It's our girls weekend. It's our version of girl weekends and how we have fun. So if that's what you like too, then it's a good thing to try. And it's a great time for the husbands too, all the husbands and boyfriends and, all the local guides come out. It's great to get to know people and meet people. So, on that note, that concludes our 2022 to 2023, the things we hope for this year, our expectations for this year, things that we took away definitely from last year. And we will be releasing these episodes bi-weekly now on Mondays. And we will return in February with Brett. And so we did promise that, and that is happening. We just wanted to throw this one in here again because we had this positive feedback that you guys wanted to hear more. And so here we are.
In the video form.
In video form. And so, anyway.
Figuring that out along with us. Let's just say that.
Yeah. But it's all part of the fun, and it's just all part of us being just natural and real, and there's nothing staged here. So, it's just us, just doing what we love to do. I'm going to continue it. So we will
touch pictures too and content from these what you might call it highlights and goals and things of whatnot from this episode. We will post them on our Instagram, so you can kind of get an idea of some of the things that we're talking about. So we'll post like Tall Boy, and I believe Sarah said she's got video of her with Wesson, or she's got images of him shooting his first doe, and then of course we've got pictures out the wazoo about our tournaments. So check out our Instagram. Sarah, you know what it is this week because you changed it, and then I don't remember it. I just know how to go to it. Is it out? It's Titty Deep Outdoors, right? Still, right?
Yep. Titty_deep_outdoors.
Yeah. So come hang out with us, share us, encourage us, send us messages, send us questions. Because we're learning every day too. Yep. Okay.
Until next time.
Okay. Who shuts this thing off?
Me.